friends. Thanks for connecting with me today. Hope you've had a good week. We're in this series that we're talking about the parables that Jesus told, these little stories that Jesus told that are very simple stories, but really profound stories that can have some significant life lessons for us. And so today's, I think, is no different. Actually, today's story, today's parable is not a parable that we would commonly associate as a parable. It's found in Matthew chapter 6, and it's actually part of the Sermon on the Mount. And let's just read it. So there are two parts to this little section. First, Jesus talks about salt, and then Jesus talks about being light. And it's actually the light section of this that is the actual parable. But let's read the whole section from verse 13. In Matthew chapter 6 here, Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." We're going to come back and talk about that in a second. And then in verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Okay, so we'll come back and talk about this section of light in just a moment with the kind of the more technical parable. But I want to just quickly talk about salt here. In verse 13, Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth." And Jesus says something really interesting that I've never really understood. And it actually, in our context today, doesn't make sense. Jesus said, but if salt loses its saltiness, if salt loses its saltiness. So we know that salt is sodium chloride, right? And salt is a very stable compound. Salt can't lose its saltiness. You can dissolve salt in water. You can, of course, the ocean, say, for example, salt doesn't go away when it's dissolved and diluted, right? Take ocean water, evaporate the water, the H2O away, and you're still going to have salt, right? So salt can't lose its saltiness. So why would Jesus say something like this that simply isn't accurate, right? Why would Jesus say that? Well, this is an example of something that's difficult for us to translate into into the English language and into our culture. So, of course, in our culture today, in the modern world, salt is pure, right? However they actually do it. Sometimes at least I know, they'll take salt water from the ocean, sea salt. We have a container of it here in the house, and evaporate away the water, and you're left with the salt, right? And so you're left with pure sodium chloride. But it wasn't that way in the first century. In the first century, they gathered salt from salt marshes, and so it wasn't pure salt. There were all kinds of impurities mixed in, with that salt. And so I think what Jesus was saying here, in the first century, you had this kind of mixture of stuff, that they called salt, and the salt was in there. But if the salt was, if it got wet and the salt is more soluble and it dissolved away and rinsed away, then all you were left with was a pile of basically other stuff, right? Maybe call it dirt or whatever. So that's why Jesus was saying, if the salt loses, if the salt mixture, if all the salt goes away, then it's good for nothing, right? That's kind of what Jesus was saying. But the point is that, you are the salt of the earth. And so we know that salt, in first century was used to preserve meat. And also, it's always, and even still today, been used to enhance the flavor of food. Really quick comment about this before we move on. I think it's interesting that salt, if salt is used properly and not too much, it brings out the flavor of the food. It brings out the natural flavors. It enhances the natural flavors of food, right? It's not, salt isn't a seasoning that goes over top to mask the flavor. Salt brings out the flavor. It brings out the beauty of the taste. And I think that's a great image of what the gospel and what Jesus does in our lives. Jesus brings out the beauty within. But Jesus doesn't say, I am the salt, although, he could almost have said, I am salt, but he's never used that image. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. And so one of the implications that I take from that is that, just as Jesus, the message of Jesus, brings out the beauty from within, just as the salt brings out the natural flavors of food, so how can I today, in the people that I come in contact with, how can I help to enhance their natural beauty? How can I bring out the beauty of my family members, of the people I meet at the store? How can I enhance, their God-given gifts within? Okay, so I want to move along because I think, so verse 13 is about salt, but I think that, verses 14 to 16, which of course, like I said, is the actual parable, or it's found within there, is kind of the larger point, that Jesus is making, and he gives more words, to this image, right? So have you ever been in a place, just to illustrate the importance of light, have you ever been in a place that is completely 100% dark? It's hard for us to really imagine because, especially in the Toronto area, there's so much light pollution that even if you turn the lights out, in your house, there's still light coming in off the street. Or even if you go outside, and kind of in the shadows of the light, I'd say in the backyard kind of thing, there's still a glow of light pollution. That's why we can't really see the stars, in the city very well. So it's very hard for us to imagine what it is to be in 100% complete darkness, right? I've been in countries of the world that there is no electricity for hundreds of miles around. The only electricity is found in generators. And when those generators go off at night, especially if it's an overcast night, there is absolutely zero light at night. And in those moments, friends, I tell you, the flashlight on your phone becomes like of uber importance, right? When we find ourselves in times of darkness, we sure do appreciate the light. And I think that this is the image that the Bible gives to us. In fact, the image of darkness and light is a very common theme all throughout the Bible, and particularly in the New Testament. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 16, this is speaking of the birth of Jesus, and it says that a people living in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of the shadow of death, light has dawned, right? So this image of darkness to, breaking forth light. In John 8:12, Jesus said that I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. Now watch what Jesus does here. In John 8:12, he says, I am the light of the world. And then in Matthew 6, again, our parable, you are the light of the world. Do you see that? So maybe more accurately, we are a reflection of the light. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, listen, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Did you catch that? Let your light shine in others, or maybe more accurately, let your light be a reflection of the light of Jesus. Let your light shine before others, that they may what? They may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. That's a beautiful image. And so the point of this parable, the whole point of this, is that we have been given the task of making a positive difference in our community. We've been given the task of making a positive difference in our community as we let the light of Jesus shine through us. And again, we see this all through the New Testament, particularly in Paul's writing. In Ephesians chapter 5, Paul said, "For once you were full of darkness, but now you have the light from the Lord." You see again that contrast of darkness and light. "For once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord." So what? So live as people of light with an exclamation mark, Paul said. Live as people of light, for this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. I think that Paul had the essence of what Jesus was talking about when, he said, let this, for this light within you produces only what is good, right, and true. And then Paul, in another letter in Philippians 2, says, "Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and power to do what pleases him." And then verse 14 is a key, brings in the image of light here. "Do everything without complaining and arguing, so that no one can criticize you. Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights in a world full of crooked and perverse people." So we have this clear image. Jesus said that you are light, right? You're a reflection of me. And don't hide your light. Don't put it under, using old language, don't put it under a bushel. Don't hide your light. Put your light out there for people to see. Let the glory of Jesus shine through you. And, and then like Paul just says, at the end of Philippians 2:15, "Live clean, innocent lives as children of God, shining like bright lights." Shining like bright lights. Friends, there's both a personal aspect to this and a corporate community, church body aspect to this. So may we today, just pay a little bit more attention to, if we use the image of salt, how can I help to bring out the natural beauty in the people around me, Or if we use the image of light, how can I be a reflection of Jesus today, to the people around me, right? And you're going to have all kinds of different thoughts and ideas about what that looks like. In fact, when we gather on Sunday tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this, we'll have a conversation about what it looks like, to be light and what it looks like to be salt. But I'd like to just finish by talking about the corporate aspect. I just said that, there's both a personal aspect to this, but also a corporate, a church community, church body aspect. As we, as a community of faith, at Reunion Stouffville, how do we be salt? How do we, be light? A friend gave me an article to read from Christianity Today. It was from the March 2023 edition. And this author, Kirsten Sanders, really asked the overarching question, of why does the church exist, right? Why do we exist as a community of believers? Or, what does the church offer our community, right? And I think that this is the overarching question of this whole discussion today. What do we offer as salt or light? What benefit do we offer, right? And so in this article, Kirsten Sanders, talks about different things that the church offers. We offer, good moral teaching that help people live a good life. We offer social justice. We try to make a difference, in people's lives who are hurting, or, whatever that justice might look like. Sometimes churches would answer this question, what do we offer? They would say, like, we offer, great music, a worship experience, or great preaching. Different churches will answer this question differently, right? But at the end of the day, friends, and this is the point that Kirsten Sanders was making in her article, at the end of the day, what we offer is Jesus, right? Kirsten Sanders says the thing people need is God. This is something that only the church can provide. And so it's important for us to be involved in social justice and helping to raise and elevate those who are oppressed, or whatever that might be. It's important for us to do that. It's important for us to offer good, moral, solid teaching to help people's lives, help people live better lives. It's important, all of these things, right? But friends, there are other groups that do social justice and probably even better than we do. There are other groups that offer good moral teaching and maybe even better than we do. I don't know, but and those things are good. But the thing is that we offer Jesus. We offer a life-changing relationship with Jesus, and that's something that no other community group can offer. So friends, as we think about, what do we offer the community, as we think about how, can we be salt, how can we be light, we must keep at the center of it what we offer that nobody else can offer, and that is we offer Jesus, we offer God, a loving, life-changing relationship with Him. So on Sunday, when we get together, we'll talk about these questions. One, why do we exist? What we were just talking about. What does our church offer our community of Stouffville? We'll talk about, what does being salt look like for me personally and for our church community? And then the same thing about light. What does it look like? Okay. So our time is up. Need to finish today, but I'd like to finish by praying together, and I'm going to put the words on the screen, this closing prayer. Loving Father, help me to live this day to the full, being true to you in every way. Help me give myself to others, being kind to everyone I meet. Help me love those who don't know you, proclaiming Christ in all I do and say. Amen. God bless you, friends. So good to be with you. Have a fantastic day.